Hey guys, Mr. March, back with the second half of Act 2, Scene 1, Midsummer Night's Dream. Let me start by saying I am aware that this screen recording is fairly low quality. The point here, for me at least, is initially just to get some of these together, to start putting together some material and then, improve the quality as we go on. It's what it is. I'm aware of it, and it's kind of one of those things where like I could spend 6 weeks trying to put this together the right way right from the start, or I could just be about it and get to it and start and figure it out along the way. So I've opted for that. That said, there are really no visuals for this one, so we're just going to kind of scroll along a little bit with the PDF text. So we finished last time. Oberon and Titania were having their fight. They're having it out about the little Indian boy, about possible infidelity, whatever. Titania's like, hey, if I stay here any longer, we're really going to fight. So, ladies, let's get out of here. And Oberon does this thing right in the first couple of lines that I really love, and it's so common, and it's like everybody who's ever been in an argument in their life, she's gone. She's out of the room, and he's kind of yelling. It's like, go on, get then. Yeah, that's right. You better keep walking. Um, which is just human nature. Like, I don't know. So he calls Robin over, right? Oberon's like, yo, Robin. And then he goes into like the most fairy story that you could ever imagine, where it's just like, these people are not on our level. They're built different. And he calls him over and he's like, hey, remember that one time we were out on the ocean and we saw a mermaid on a dolphin's back? And Robin's like, yeah, yeah. And he's like, well, while that was happening, I saw Cupid flying between Earth and the moon. And he shot an arrow and it missed and it landed in this one flower in the Western world. And Robin's like, word, okay, cool. That flower has magical powers. It used to be white, but since the arrow hit it, it's kind of like a purple, and it's called Love in Idleness. Now go find that and bring it back to me, because the next man, woman, whatever, whose eyelids you put the nectar from that flower on, they're going to fall madly in love with whatever they see first when they wake up. So he's like, be quick and, go across the world and get that for me. And apparently these fairies can fly. So Robin's like, word, I'll take care of that. I'll be back in 40 minutes. And he takes off, and then Oberon does the thing where he kind of like tells us his scheme out loud. It's like it's a dramatic effect where he is telling us his thoughts, and he lets us know his grand scheme, which essentially is that he's going to go and put the nectar, the goop from this flower, on his wife Titania's eyes while she's asleep, and she's going to fall in love with some sort of forest creature. And he uses the lines right here. He doesn't really care what it is, be it on lion, bear, or wolf, or bull, on meddling monkey, or busy ape. She shall pursue it with the soul of love. Essentially, it's like, my wife is going to fall madly in love with some forest creature, and she's going to be chasing after it, just doting on the thing, and it's going to be hilarious, and we're all going to laugh. And in the meantime, I'm going to go have her give that little Indian boy over to me. And then after she gives the little Indian boy to me, I will take the spell off, because apparently there's a second flower that can counteract the spell of the first flower. So he tells all of us that, the audience, right? He lets us know it's an aside. And when he's done, all of a sudden he's like, oh, snap, I hear people. Boom. And he hits his invisibility power, right? If you remember that from the beginning, he has the power to make himself invisible at any time. And he says, and I will overhear their conference, because what fairy isn't a gossip? And guess who walks in? Helena. And now, if you got the sense that Helena was, I don't know, a little bit desperate in the first scene, Act 1, Scene 1, you're really going to, I don't know, it is as thirst monster as I've ever seen in any piece of literature, and thankfully from any human being. So Demetrius comes into the woods, and he says it as simply as he can. I love thee not. Therefore, pursue me not. Right? Like, I don't love you. Stop following me. Where's Lysander and Hermia? You told me they were coming into the woods to sneak away, and now I gotta find them. So you be gone. Finish that however you want. And follow me no more. Be gone. And Helena's like, "Oh, I'm in love with you. You got such a tough exterior. Oh, whatever. My heart is as true as whatever. And he says, "Do I entice you? Do I speak you fair? Or do I not, in plainest truth, tell you I do not, nor I cannot love you?" He's just like, how much simpler can I say it? I don't want you. I don't love you. I'm not gonna love you. I can't love you. I would never love you. Please be gone. And she says, she's just got like a list of like the most desperate lines ever. And she goes, "And even for that, do I love you the more?" Where it's like, oh, girl, just have just a tiny bit of self-respect and, move on. But she goes on. "I am your spaniel." And Demetrius, in case you're not sure, a spaniel is a dog. It is a dog breed. "The more you beat me, I will fawn on you. Use me but as your spaniel. Spurn me, strike me, neglect me, lose me. Only give me leave, unworthy as I am, to follow you. What worser place can I beg in your love, and yet a place of high respect with me, than to be used as you use your dog?" She's got issues, guys. She's got some deep-seated issues. Everything this side of "please choke me," Helena just said. And I guess this is a good time to stop for a minute and try to give you the counterpoint where it's like, okay, there's no justifying who she is here and how she's acting. But just to try to balance this out, because she looks real, real, real bad. I told you in Act 1, Scene 1, that back in the 1600s, you got one person for the rest of your life. And that was it. You met them, you fell in love, or you were promised to marry them, and you got married and you had your kid and you died. So, for Demetrius to essentially curve Helena after making her promises and saying that he liked her and leading her on, if that were to happen to you in modern times, if you meet somebody and you start to like them and you guys are texting for a while and then all of a sudden they just ghost and they never respond to your text and you're sitting there trying to figure out like, wait, what the hell just happened? Like we were just, I was into and she was into, and so what? But you get over it after a couple of days and then you go find somebody else to text, right? Great. Problem is that didn't exist 400 years ago. Again, this idea, you got one person for the rest of your life. And Helena thinks that she lost hers. And so this sends her into a tailspin of like, is it me? Is there something wrong with me? Like, you could almost understand that she turned all of the problems inward towards her and it just shattered her self-esteem, because get over it and go out with somebody else was not an option, right? Like, it was not a possibility in that time, right? This was so out of the ordinary, and the ordinary was you got a person, you married that person, you had your kids, and that's it. That's it. This is so absurd and unexpected. This is almost like if you ever seen somebody get, like the catfish shows, Helena got catfished harder than anyone's ever been catfished in the history of that show, based on the historical times. So you can almost understand how broken she is, and it doesn't justify her being this desperate and having so little self-respect that she's saying, I don't care, like, just, you could treat me like a dog, just keep me around you. It's like, there's no justifying going to that low, but I wanted to kind of paint the other side of it, so it's like, I guess maybe we could understand how she got to that place. So this goes on for another minute, and Demetrius and Helena finish the conversation. She has a couple more pathetic lines. She says, Demetrius is like, I'm sick when I look at you. I want to throw up. I want to puke when I look at you. And Helena's like, and I'm sick when I don't look at you. And it's just, like, we can't heighten this anymore. We can't make this any worse than it is. Except there is, to me, one very funny part where, like, the lady says to her, I'll run from thee and hide me in the brakes and leave thee to the mercy of wild beasts. Where he's just like, girl, get away from me. Otherwise, I'm going to take you into the middle of the forest and let the wolves eat you. Or something like that. And then the last thing that he says, I will not stay thy questions. Let me go. Or if thou follow me, do not believe, but I shall do thee mischief in the wood. Which I always kind of translated as, you could translate it a bunch of different ways. But he's kind of saying like, if you follow me, I'm going to mess you up. And to me, the funniest interpretation of that is like, I'm going to trip you and push you down a hill, or I'm going to throw you in a lake. Something like that. Not funny, but, funny. So, Demetrius takes off, and Helena's standing there, and she's just like, oh, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth, and I'll follow thee and make a heaven of hell to die upon the hand I love so well. So Demetrius power walks off, and then it's kind of like one of those horror movies where like, Jason or Freddy doesn't like run after the people he's chasing. He just kind of like slow walks after him. That's what Helena does here. So she just keeps walking after him, slows the pace a little, and Oberon watches this whole thing, turns off his invisibility, and he feels bad. He's got like sympathy in his heart for this poor girl, and he says, fare thee well, nymph. Ere he do leave this grove, thou shalt fly him, and he shall seek thy love. And so Oberon saw that and was like, this ain't right. That man's doing that girl dirty. I'm going to flip this around so that by the time you leave the woods, you're the one running away from him, and he's in love and chasing you. And Robin, right on cue, comes back and, he's got the flower, right? Like, hey, gimme. Oberon wants the flower right away. And Oberon has this little monologue, basically where he takes the flower, he rips it in half, and he gives half to Puck, and he keeps the other half for himself. He's like, all right, I know where my wife's sleeping tonight, so I'm going to go put this on her eyes, and it's going to be hilarious. This goop is going to be on her eyes, and she's going to wake up, and she's going to fall in love with some forest creature. I need you to go into the forest, and there's this Athenian dude, and you'll know him because he's dressed in Athenian garments, and he's with a woman who's in love with him. I need you to find that couple and put the goop from the other half of this flower on his eyes, and make sure that he's turned towards her so that when he wakes up, he falls in love with her. Now, Oberon intended for Puck to put the nectar on Demetrius's eyes and have him wake up and see Helena. What's the problem with this? When he says this Athenian dude and this girl who's in love with him, the forest is like a mile outside of Athens, so it could be any Athenian. But on top of that, we already know there's another young Athenian couple meeting in the woods. What could possibly go wrong? We'll pick back up with Act 2, Scene 2, and we will see a bit more of how the fairies interact with humans and change the trajectory of their lives. All right, that's it.